Hey, boys and girls, it's Miss Escamilla. Today is Thursday, October the 12th. Your homework is due tomorrow on October the 13th, which is a Friday. I will not be here tomorrow. I will have a sub, Mrs. Coffee, but she will be collecting your homework, so please do not forget to give it to her. Okay, so today we're going to work on, I'm going to make two videos today. So on the first video, which is this video, we're going to talk about problems 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. On number 5, the learning standard is to be able to compare and order whole numbers and decimals. And so I notice in this problem that we're ordering whole numbers from greatest to least. The strategy we talked about in class when we order numbers is to line up your numbers vertically. So for example, if I were to give you the numbers 17,219, 17,192, and 17,921, and I wanted you to order these from greatest to least, we would start off in the furthest place value, or the largest place value position, which would be all the way to the left, and start working our way down, comparing the digits that are lined up in each column. So I noticed that when I look in the 10,000s place, all the numbers in the 10,000s place are ones, which means since they're all the same, we can't make a comparison because right now it looks like they're all the same. We go to the thousands place, all the digits are sevens. Those are all the same, so we can't make a decision about what's greater than or less than quite yet. However, when we get to the hundreds place, I noticed that we have a 2, a 1, and a 9. They're all different. And so at this point, I can start thinking about which digit is the greatest and which digit is the least, which will help us to order these numbers. So when I look at a 2, a 1, and a 9, I know that my 9 is greater than 1 and 2. So that tells me immediately that this entire number is going to be the greatest number. So I label it with G for greatest. And I know that the 1 is the smallest digit. It's the least, it's worth the least amount, which tells me that that 1 right there, this whole number is going to be our least number. And if this is our least number and this is our greatest number, that means that this number is going to be the number that falls in the middle. So if I was going to order these from greatest to least, I already have all the information I need in order to do this. So when I would rewrite it in order from greatest to least, I would start with 17,921. Okay, I'm going to separate. And then the middle number would be 17,219. And then the smallest number, or the least number, would be 17,192. So that's the strategy we talked about for ordering numbers. One of the biggest things that you need to pay attention to is how you are being asked to order the numbers. Are you being asked to order from greatest to least or from least to greatest? And pay careful attention to that. Okay, all right, number 6 is comparing decimals using models. And I noticed that in this model represents a flat of hundredths, and this model represents a flat with tenths. And so I always suggest that if you're just given a model, that the first thing you should do is label your decimals. Write down what this decimal is that represents this model and the decimal that represents this model, and then make your comparison. So, for example, if I were to give you a comparison, if I were to give you a flat with tenths, okay, so those are tenths, and then a flat with, we're going to do hundredths. And this is going to take a little bit more time. Nine. Okay, so both of these represent a flat or a whole. And then I'm going to shade in an amount on each one of them. So I'm going to shade in 1, 2, 3, 4 of my tenths over here. And over here, I'm going to shade in 1, 2, 3, 4 hundredths. And then make a comparison which one is greater than and which one is less than. So the strategy is always to first label your decimal. So when I'm looking at this flat, I notice that I shaded in 4 out of the 10 equal parts. So 4 out of 10 equal parts is 4/10. And as a decimal, that just means that we would put a 4 in the 10th place. So that would mean I would have 0 ones and then a 4 in the 10th place. I notice that this model is separated into 100 equal parts, which would represent hundredths, and I've shaded in 4 of them. So this would represent 4 hundredths. As a decimal, that means you would put a 4 in the hundredth place. So I would put a 0 in the ones place, a 0 in the tens place, and a 4 in the hundredths place. Now, so that means we're comparing 4/10 to 4 hundredths. Now, a little strategy we talked about in class is if one of the decimals has nothing in the hundredths place, put a 0 there. So I noticed that this decimal 4/10, we don't have any hundredths. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 0 there. That way this number is made up of 3 digits and this number is made up of 3 digits, and it makes it a little bit easier to compare. And we also talked about how when we compare decimals, we can think about it like money. So I'm going to put a $sign in front of this and a $sign in front of this. And when I look at this, this looks like it would be 40 cents and this looks like it would be 4 cents. Well, I know that 40 cents is greater than 4 cents. So that means that this model of 4/10 is going to be greater than this model of 4 hundredths. Okay, so that should help you with number 6. On number 7, we're being asked to write the decimal and the fraction that represents that model. That's exactly like what we did over here on number 4. Okay, so you just have to keep in mind that when we're, that when you have a model, each flat represents a whole. So if I were to have 3 entire flats and all of it shaded, that would represent 3 wholes, or a 3 in the ones place. And the one, if it's 3 wholes or 3 ones, that means our decimal point would go after it, because this is our ones place. And let's say I had another flat and it was separated into 100. Okay, it was separated into hundredths, and I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 hundredths shaded. Then this decimal would represent 3 ones or 3 wholes, and 13 hundredths would be shaded. Okay, so this would represent 3 and 13 hundredths. That would be written like this as a decimal. As a fraction, it would be written 3 and 13 hundredths. It would be actually written as a mixed number because we have a whole number and a fraction. So that would represent a mixed number. So keep that in mind as you're doing number 7. On number 8, it's an array. So you need to be, you have to think about how many are going, you would need to count how many are going up and down in a column and how many are going across in a row, and that represents your factors. So just make sure that you're counting and labeling. Label how many of these little circles are going up and down in a column, and then count how many are going across in a row and label that, and then look for the answer that matches that. Okay, we're going to make another video in just a minute.